So, this news just came out 2 weeks ago. Palantir and BP agreed to a 5-year strategic relationship with new AI capabilities. Palantir and BP have announced an enterprise agreement that will extend their strategic relationship to introduce new artificial intelligence capabilities with Palantir's AIP software. That's the new guy, that's the new toy out there. The new contract will build on a decade of deep collaboration that has created a firm foundation with BP's oil and gas production operations using Palantir's industry-leading software. Since 2014, a decade ago, Palantir's software has been deployed widely by BP to support its oil and gas production operations from oil or offshore oil platforms in the North Sea and Gulf of Mexico. Now, by the way, BP, one of the biggest oil and gas giants out there, if anybody's not aware. They're certainly kind of up there with Royal Dutch Shell, with Chevron, Exxon, those sorts of companies. They're giant. During that decade, it has supported BP's digital transformation program with a focus on delivering efficiencies in oil and gas production systems. Central to that program has been the development of a model-based digital twin of BP's oil and gas production activity, enabling performance improvements. This entails the integration of dynamic digital physical asset models with real-time data from over 2 million sensors into a single integrated operating picture through Palantir software. Palantir's AIP software will assist BP to safely and reliably harness large language models, LLMs, to improve and accelerate human decision-making with suggested courses of action based upon automated analysis of underlying data. This is massive, folks. Absolutely massive. And the reason being is this goes to show you how sticky Palantir can be. BP and them have had a relationship for a decade now, right? And so when you guys see them, and we're about to go through more recent contract wins here, including one that just came out here today, when you see this sort of stuff, you got to understand Palantir's business model is going to be incredibly sticky. So when they land a client, they're likely to keep that client for the next 10, 20, who knows, 30 years into the future. And so Palantir is going to be able to get more contract wins. And like I said, in regards to Palantir, if somebody spends, let's say they spend $100 million with Palantir over a 5-year span, right, which is $20 million a year, which might seem like a big number. For a large corporation, that's not a big number. Second, as long as Palantir helps them save or make an additional 20 plus million, it's all gravy. That's all gravy. So that's the thing you've got to keep in mind in regards to Palantir and how they help these companies. This came out last week. Nebraska Medicine and Palantir announced pioneering partnership to use AI technology to advance healthcare. Palantir and Nebraska Medicine, a $2.5 billion academic health system based in Omaha, Nebraska, and a national leader in healthcare innovation, today announced a new multi-year, multi-million-dollar contract for Palantir's artificial intelligence platform, there's that AIP again, to help improve healthcare through transformational technology. Nebraska's medicine invests in driving innovation at a rate that most peers would deem impossible. Less than 1 year into the partnership, Nebraska Medicine has implemented more than 10 applications of AIP, improving patient basically throughput, expanding claims reimbursement, and better monitoring patient care. AIP provides Nebraska Medicine safe and secure awareness of their operations with long-term opportunities for transformation across Nebraska Medicine's enterprise and more. Palantir and Nebraska Medicine started working together in January 2024, so this is a somewhat new relationship, sharing a mission to rapidly solve critical healthcare problems. The proof: Nebraska Medicine represents Palantir's fastest time to enterprise commitment of any Palantir health system partner to date. In a series of targeted boot camps, Nebraska Medicine took less than 6 weeks to put a new workflow into production in as little as 90 minutes to introduce more. Since partnering with Palantir, Nebraska Medicine has seen a 2,000+% increase in discharge lounge utilization, freeing up beds earlier for patients and decreasing time from discharge order to patient discharge by 1 hour on average. This is massive. I mean, imagine how big Palantir could be really in the medical field alone. And when I talk about the medical field, I'm talking about drug discovery and all the things Palantir can do there. But I'm also talking about just the healthcare system in general in terms of like hospitals. If you've ever gone to a hospital, it's not a good experience. You know it's not a good experience, right? Why is it not a good experience? Because getting into the hospital, getting into the system is a hassle. Then when you want to leave the hospital, it's like, oh my gosh, it's like pulling teeth to get out of there. As somebody that's had 3 kids and been, in the hospital several times, with my wife, after getting out of the hospital, it takes a long time. You're just like waiting there and you're like, can we just go home? Can we go home? And hour by hour ticks along. And my kids were all 3 different hospitals, right? And so I've seen many different hospitals. They're all the same. It takes forever to get out of these places. And it's like, oh my gosh, so much paperwork, so much crap. And next thing you know, you might be stuck there another day because they didn't get you out on time. And then they're like, at this point, we'll just keep them another day. And so they make some excuse to keep you an extra day. And it's like, oh my gosh, like we could have already been out of here so long ago. So we know the healthcare system in the United States needs a lot of fixing in a lot of places. And this opens up a 10 to 20 year massive opportunity for Palantir to really come in and be a game changer. And partnerships like this we're just at the tip of the iceberg in regards to this sort of stuff. You're going to see Palantir, in my opinion, partnering with a lot of hospitals, healthcare related companies over the coming years. And the more proof they have of these sorts of things and the more this news gets around, the more it's going to help Palantir overall. This one came out a few days ago. Palantir expands Maven Smart System AI and ML capabilities to military services. Palantir today announced contract awarded, basically Army Research Laboratory, expanding Maven Smart System access across military services, including the Army, Air Force, Space Force, Navy, and U.S. Marine Corps. The firm fixed price contract is worth up to $99 million over 5 years and simplifies and expedites the ability for services to access the existing capabilities with Maven Smart System. Maven Smart System is part of, you guys can read through the rest if you want. The bottom line is Palantir is doing more and more of these big deals with government as well, with the military as well, which that's always kind of been their bread and butter of this business. But the commercial side is the side that's really exciting in my opinion. Now, these government deals, they really matter because they're big numbers. That's the thing with these. When you see a lot of these military deals, a lot of these government-related contracts come through, a lot of times they'll be like, a 9-figure deal, $100 million, if not several $100 million. And those really help that revenue and really help that bottom line for Palantir. But for me, that once again, it's kind of like tip of the iceberg type opportunity because you're only going to be able to get so much from the government, so much from the military. When you think about how big the commercial space is, I mean, oh my gosh, like Palantir, like to me, the tip of the iceberg of this whole thing really is military and government, and the whole underside, that is commercial opportunity. So the commercial opportunity for Palantir, in my opinion, if we look at this company 10 to 15 years from now, it's going to dwarf any of this government-related deals. But we can't deny that in the short term, these military contracts and government in general related contracts are massive, and they do change the game for Palantir's revenues and their profitability. So we do have to admit that. Now, this news just came out here today. Palantir, some money from the National Institute of Health and Office of the Assistant to the Secretary. So supposedly there's about a $12 million 2-year deal, which, isn't the biggest deal in the world, but still. $12 million over 2 years. It just goes to show you, Palantir is really going after those multi-million dollar deals. And just another one. So we got deals after deals after deals coming through with Palantir all the time. And it's very, very exciting. Hey, I want to thank you so much for watching that clip. I hope you really enjoyed it. What I'm showing you in front of your face right now is 1000xstocks.com. This is such an important website and service to use if you want to research companies, if you want to understand companies on a high level, so you can hopefully get better results in the market. And we know as the years tick on, money compounds. It is so important you research companies, you compare companies, you're listening to conference calls, looking at SEC filings. All that's included into 1000xstocks.com. So to enjoy 1000xstocks.com and to apply for that service, you can go to the description area of this video, or you can go to 1000xstocks.com, whichever you prefer. Now, additionally, how beautiful is this? This is looking at 1000xstocks.com, our new charts feature. Look at the trailing 12-month of Palantir's revenue. It's up and away. And then what we do on 1000x is we don't just show you the past. We do something pretty innovative that pretty much no one else does, we do the projected as well. So we show you what the projected Palantir numbers are based upon kind of what the analyst consensus is and kind of what they're thinking out there. And so what this shows you is the ultimate chart there. Like that's as good as it gets in the stock market, right? And keep in mind, this has all transpired during the highest rate environment we've had in decades. So my question to you is, what would Palantir's growth have been the past 2 or 3 years if we hadn't had the Fed raise interest rates so aggressively and we hadn't had the highest interest rate environment in decades? What would the growth rates have been for Palantir? What would they be right now? Like if we weren't in the highest rate environment in decades, like what would Palantir have grown last quarter? Instead of 27%, would it have been 37%? Would it have been 47%, 50%? Like I think that's a fair question, considering how much they've grown in this environment, right? That's incredible to think about that. I mean, think about the environment we're in. We're in an environment where some of the biggest, strongest companies in the world have had trouble growing revenues. You know, who comes to mind when I think about that? Apple, Starbucks, Nike, like all these great companies, like the creme de la cremes, have had trouble even growing revenue over the past year because of how high rates have gone in the inflation cycle and everything like that. And here Palantir's putting up 27% growth, like it's nobody's business. That's incredible. If you want to know something even, in my opinion, more shocking and beautiful in this, it's if you go to the quarterly tab. So instead of trailing 12 month, type in, just hit the quarterly button there. And even that is up and away. And here's a question. How many companies can you count on growing every single quarter? Every single quarter. Not just, it's one thing to grow on a trailing 12 month basis. That's impressive. But what about every quarter? Where every quarter, it's just like, how much did we grow? How much did we grow? That's Palantir. Every quarter this company grows. That's incredible to think about that, right? So very few companies can do that. Now, additionally with Palantir, we've gone from net margins that were underground, right? Obviously, Palantir lost a lot of money for a long time. Now we're going to a beast. I mean, look at the net margins of this company's now approached a 20% level. And that's happened like snap of fingers. That's incredible. Gross margins on this company rate around 80%. So you got to think about where do if net margins have gone from underground to around a 20% level roughly this quickly, where are the net margins of this company 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 7 years from now, 10 years from now? That's my question to you. Here's what I think, okay? My opinion is, if we're thinking about the goalposts in my opinion, in terms of margins, Mr. Softy, Microsoft, and Nvidia. Now, I gotta say, Palantir actually has two beautiful things that Microsoft and Nvidia don't have. Microsoft margins are actually hurt because there's a huge segment of their business, which is cloud. That's through Azure, right? Now, cloud, very commoditized. You've got to understand that. Very commoditized, pricing's extremely aggressive. They got to compete against Amazon, which is obviously the big dog in the space. They also have to compete against Google, which from my opinion, Google's extremely competitively priced with cloud because they're kind of third tier, so they can kind of a lot of times undercut contracts. And so Microsoft has this kind of more commoditized business that in my opinion hurts their margins substantially. I think Microsoft might have net margins of 40% plus if it wasn't for the cloud, in my opinion, actually pull down, right? Nvidia's margins are incredible. 50% plus net margins, that's like unheard of. That's ridiculous. Nvidia, guess what? They sell physical products. That's like the majority of the far away majority of Nvidia's revenue is physical products. Palantir doesn't make physical products. Palantir is a software company. And so when I think about, could Palantir's net margins surpass a Microsoft and get to much higher levels than even a Microsoft or Nvidia? It's a real possibility because they're so software heavy. So as you think about this business maturing over the next 5, 10 years, you got to understand there's so much room for expansion of the net margin of this company. It's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And so what you're going to see is much more of the revenue growth go down to that bottom line nowadays than it would have certainly in past years. Now, the other beautiful thing is Palantir's already got gross margins above Microsoft. Microsoft's gross margin is 69%. Nvidia's gross margin is 75%. Palantir's over 80%. So we're already, as far as gross margins go, we're already above those companies. Now, net margins, it's been increasing rapidly for Palantir, but we got a long way to go here. just slightly under 20%. Microsoft's over 34%. Nvidia's a shocking 55%. My opinion is, at the end of this decade, Palantir is going to be somewhere between, in my opinion, these two companies, 34 and 55% net margin, somewhere in there roughly. I don't know if it's like a 40% net margin for Palantir or 45%, but there's no doubt, looking at the gross margins of Palantir, thinking about how this company evolves, and also it's just software, there's no doubt in my mind that Palantir will end up becoming an incredible net margin company. And the best part for Palantir is they kind of have no competition. They're kind of a one of one, right? Their product is so specialized and their product is so phenomenal that you can't really put it in the same sentence as other guys. Once again, if we go to Microsoft and we really think about the cloud business, a lot of people look at that as commoditized. They say, okay, who cares? I won't go with Microsoft, I'll go with AWS. Okay, I won't go with AWS, I'll go with Google, right? Palantir doesn't have that. You can't just swap out Palantir and say, we got something else. No, it doesn't work like that. Palantir is a one-on-one, right? Nvidia has gotten to these incredible net margins. Why? Well, because really they have no competition. Like Intel, AMD is the only companies really trying to keep up with them, right? You could say maybe Avago, Broadcom, what they're doing, but at the end of the day, all those companies are not really the best direct competitors to Nvidia. And so Nvidia has been able to command these unbelievable, historically ridiculous margins that just no one can really compete with, right? So the moral of the story is Palantir's net margin is going to go up considerably from here. Now, this is the tough thing with Palantir, is at the end of the day, if you look at this company on a 2-year horizon, Palantir at 40 looks like a ripoff. It just does, right? That's the tough thing about Palantir stock. It looks like a ripoff if you're looking at this on a 2-year horizon. And the stock's at 40, which don't be surprised if it's 40 this week, right? It isn't a great value. It just isn't. But when you begin to look out further, let's say you got a 5 to 7 year time horizon, Palantir at 40 actually looks like a good deal. And so this is a screwy thing with Palantir, and this is why this stock causes so much debate, so much passion, because some people look at Palantir at $40 and they see a gem. They see, oh, this is a great deal. Other people look at Palantir at 40 and I'm like, are you kidding me? This stock's the biggest ripoff. Look at the PE ratios on this one, right? And I got to be honest with you guys, I can't say either side's wrong because both sides actually have a really good debate. Like, if somebody says Palantir is really overvalued right now, if you're looking at a 2-year horizon, they're not wrong. They're right. They're 100% right. Like, Palantir is at really high share price right now, right? If I'm looking at 2024 and 2025. But then if I look out and I'm looking further out, 2028, 2029, I'm like, oh, this is actually a good deal. So both sides are technically right in regards to the situation. Hey, I want to thank you so much for watching that clip. I hope you really enjoyed it. What I'm showing you in front of your face right now is 1000xstocks.com. This is such an important website and service to use if you want to research companies, if you want to understand companies on a high level, so you can hopefully get better results in the market. And we know as the years tick on, money compounds. It is so important you research companies, you compare companies, you're listening to conference calls, looking at SEC filings, all that's included into 1000xstocks.com. So to enjoy 1000xstocks.com and to apply for that service, you can go to the description area of this video, or you can go to 1000xstocks.com, whichever you prefer. Next one up here, David Tepper, why he's not buying Nvidia on the dip.
Well, we sold a lot of our Nvidia.
Stuff before, yeah.
But, listen, the stock we thought was, too high at the time and would come down. Unfortunately, we didn't buy it when it came back down.
Right.
But, so it's okay. It's really, those stocks like Nvidia is a question. Do you have enough power, okay, for the growth? Do you have the next generation models that can take their chip? So it looks great in 24, it looks great in 25. I have no idea in 26 and 27.
Does he watch my channel? Is this not the point I've been making in regards to Nvidia for months and months and months? I've been telling you guys literally for months now, like Nvidia's got it all wrapped up. 24, 25, like numbers are there, man. And what I always tell you guys, like 26, 27, you got to worry about that. That's where things become uncertain in regards to Nvidia. That's hilarious.
Yeah. Okay, I mean, if I was good, I don't believe my analysts.
David Tepper, if you're watching this, sir, okay, listen. I appreciate what you do in the market, but still, like what I said earlier about you and the Panthers, I can't take that back, man. I just got to be honest. You ruined that team. They were a very good team before. Like, I don't know what you're doing over there, but you got to fix your stuff.
Any analyst, I don't trust myself. You know what I'm saying? I just don't know how you know. There's too much. And, you have these multiples out there and how
talking about Bryce Young?
And the variation of where that earnings can be on the out years is too much. So it's not my preferred vehicle versus other things that I have more confidence in how I can, how we can do in my shop, analysis on the earnings.
But you thought it was important to mention that you'll be playing the energy component of trying to supply all this new technology.
We're trying to understand it better.
Trying to understand it better.
Here's the thing.
Would you avoid green? Would you embrace green? Would you avoid fossil fuels? Would you embrace fossil fuels, natural gas?
I never think I'm that smart, so I just like to use common sense.
I made you out to be really smart.
Okay, you can try, but I'm not going to accept it. But I do have a heck of a lot of common sense, and this is what I know. I talked to some governors, around the country, both sides of the aisle. I'm friendly with everybody, as you know.
Yeah.
They're not going to let their nuclear power come offline. It's not going to happen. It's a joke. Some of these projections on these things are crazy. It has to be, if you're going to meet these power needs of what they need for AI, you're going to have to use natural gas. You're going to have to use natural gas. It's just...
And that comes from drilling.
Yeah, we have a lot of it. And, so you have to use... you're going to have to use it. You cannot take if you take a current nuclear plant and you think you're going to get these things, it will never get by these individual, PUCs. It won't. It can't. It's going to hurt the consumer too much. You can't hurt the consumer that much. It's nuts. So I hear these guys talk about, well, if we did this, if I was 7'2", I would have been in the NBA one day. I'm not 7'2". Okay, if you want to say something that can't possibly happen,
you still wouldn't be in the NBA.
I would still. I don't have the skills. It's a true story, but
you could be 8'2".
So that's an interest when they say. So I'm trying to understand what really makes sense, what doesn't make sense,
right.
And we're trying to figure that out right now. So it's fascinating to me. It's fascinating when you look at these tech stocks. It's fascinating in a video, or you look at some of these things. Can you do for different reasons? There's different things as you go out years, different things that have to happen to make the growth projections happen. I'm not saying it won't happen. I'm just not smart enough to know if they will. I know the probabilities that they will or not, but I can't. No, it's what it is. Okay, so I recognize those things. And people are making assumptions that are going to happen 100%. Well, the United States is a great country, and we innovate like heck, and, things do happen this way, and usually you have flies in
We do have a fly. We have a
It's
fly.
one particular one, and if I get him, I'm telling you, I'm not even going to kill him. I'm not going to kill him right away. I'm not going to kill him right away.
Dare I ask you how the election plays into all of this?
So with the election, I am a big proponent of split government. And right now, as you're more than aware of,
Yep.
It looks like the Senate is Republican and the House is Democratic, and I'm loving life. And I don't care. I'm talking purely from this show. Okay, I don't care.
And what would you do if it was a sweep?
If it's a sweep on either side?
Democrat sweep.
So I'll just, and I don't want to talk about it that much politics, but I'll just say in general, you have a populist on one side and a progressive populist on the other. And if I listen to what happy day I hear more giveaways and more of that. So do I want all Democrats? No. Do I want all Republicans? No. I don't want more. Again, from a pure economics, there's other considerations,
right.
Which is just not the show to talk about. But from this market perspective, an economic perspective, what's good for the economy, I want to split government, and I don't want all Democrats, and I don't want all Republicans.
And you think at the moment,
if I'm thinking about the markets,
and you think at the moment it's not impacting the markets either way because you think that the expectation is that it's going to be split.
Well, not only the expectation is there. People bet on it. The betting markets are that way that it's split, and as long as it's split. And this may be a problem because the market thinks it's going to be split right now. So if it gets surprised, that could be a problem for the markets. But as long as it's a split, the market's going to be fine. They will not care because they're not going to let them do the things they talk about.
So, David, Are you afraid to play AI directly? You're doing the sort of downstream ways of doing it. I mean, is it too hard to figure out? There's Nvidia, but
no. Listen, you have
what besides Nvidia and energy?
Well, we have the regular stocks like a Meta has been a big beneficiary of AI.
Right. Llama.
All these, I mean, just in how they do models, how they monetize their business, and other.
Is that a
like
big
Amazon.
trend for you, or is there something else?
It's the question how much is in the stocks and how much the next generation is, how much more, because they've gotten pretty good returns, I think, that more than people appreciate in these numbers, and so they could have near-term all these stocks could have near-term surprises. So the question is,
oh, did you guys hear about the new bear case on Meta? I'll tell you about the new bear case on Meta. New bear case on Meta is, since they're going to push more and more into physical products, right, over the coming years, their margins could potentially go down. And so that's the new bear case on Meta is, yeah, even if they make a bunch of money from that and offset losses, their margins might go down. What do I look at? I say, all I care about is the company makes more money. All I care about is the revenue goes higher and the net income goes higher. If the margins go down and the net income's going up and the revenue's going up, it's all fine with me. More money's more money. That's all I care about. But that's a new bear case around Meta. Oh, they sell a lot of these physical products, their margins are going to go down.
as it goes further out.
When you say surprises on the upside or downside?
It is true.
Well, surprises on the upside if they can change the models, and some of the base earnings are good enough to give support for those stocks, versus, we talked about, and I kind of like Nvidia, the price, okay, so don't get me wrong. I could just love it, okay? But you have to believe more in that versus...
Are you not a believer that long-term for AI to actually work and to be a meaningful contributor to the economy,
yes.
that Nvidia's margins ultimately have to come down? Meaning, as long as they have, it was like 70% margin, 80% margins on some of these chips, it's amazing, and God bless them for it. But at some point, to make this whole thing economical, I imagine those margins are going to have to come down.
It depends how much they make, right? But look, there's another concern potentially.
Did you have any Lilly, Novo? You have any healthcare? You got any biotech?
Are you asking me if I
just trying to get as much as I can? Nope. I'm just saying. You watch Lilly? Lilly has been a growth stock.
No, I don't have.
So no healthcare.
Can I go back to China again?
Which I think is the biggest thing that people really have to go and understand it, because it has implications all over in bonds, currencies, and stocks. We didn't talk about the currencies and bond side.